Awesome. So let's start with why are we here? One of the very important things about doing anything is really knowing your why. What's the reason why you do things? We normally tend to move as people as what are we doing, right? We are doing a workshop. We are doing, I'm going here. I'm doing, creating this program. But really asking yourself why is just kind of like a very important question, because the reason behind what you do is what's going to move you through any project that you have. So our reason for being here is because we know that nonprofits have been stretched even more thin over the last 3 years, right? It's true that there have been extra resources coming in through our doors, but usually the resources that come are destined to be given away, not necessarily to support operations and the balance that nonprofits need to function better. So as we know, many of the nonprofits that we are working with have been first responders. When during the time of COVID, they had to attend people that were going through emergencies, that needed money, needed food, needed to pay their rent and their electricity, and we're really struggling even with mental health, right? So what we want to do today is to give individuals the tools that they need to do their work, their best work, right? Because we stretch ourselves so much, and in nonprofit we are so used to being, the giver, the person that is always taking care of somebody else, that we forget often that there is importance in taking care of ourselves. And we will be talking a lot more about that as we progress through the series. So the whole series is a journey from the individual into the organization. So by bettering ourselves and the way we do our work, we can kind of insert that thinking into organizations and bring people that can improve the organizations as well. I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and just very briefly, and so just why I'm qualified. So I have been in
She's here till 2:30, and then I gotta clean it all
I
up.
have had let me just make sure I'm muting this person here. So I have been in nonprofit for the last 15 years, and I have done all kinds of jobs throughout the nonprofit, from serving directly participants and clients into crisis situations, to doing administrative work, to being a director of an organization, and to, apologize. And to being also in HR and operations. So I have a broad kind of like overview of what an organization needs, what they need, what they're looking for, and so on. So that's one piece. But then the other piece, other than my work in the nonprofit, is that I have a lot of training on team development, and also I am a professional life coach. So I work with people that are looking into changing their careers, taking a new outlook into their how they prefer to do things. And I also work with organizations that are intentionally working towards culture change. So it's a lot of good and work that really motivates me a lot. My real motivation is really to empower people to be their best selves and enjoy what they do, not to live like miserable lives with their jobs and so on. So that's kind of that. This is a layout of all the workshops we are going to have this year. And I wanted to show it to you because it's kind of like it shows the journey that we will be going through. So today are going to start with today. We're going to talk about how to avoid burnout and set work boundaries. But then we are going to move into understanding why helpers suffer from so much burnout, what is vicarious trauma, and what are the usual reasons why someone may have compassion fatigue in their work. Then we want to move a little bit into talking about philosophies of how to improve organizational culture, and talk about the biggest part of our job, which is like working with other people and how to communicate better with them. Communication at work can be very difficult at times. We all experience it. So we're going to have a very entertaining conversation there. Then we're going to talk about growing within your organization. What does it mean to become a manager, and what are the things that you should consider when you are transitioning from one role to the other, and how to work with your employees, how to make that move. Then we'll move into how to empower your team. Anybody can empower anybody. You don't need to be a supervisor to be empowering a team. And then we're going to talk about how to perform outstanding performance reviews for both employees and employers. What is a good way to go about doing performance reviews? Then we'll get a little more global, and we're going to be talking about the nonprofit cycle and how people, how these organizations work, and what is the role of the nonprofit board within all this what are these people that are telling us what to do, but are not doing the job every day, right? And last but not least, because I know that many of you probably are serving immigrants, our BIPOC piece of the last training is going to be how are we serving immigrants with a BIPOC focus, but focus also in the immigrant experience, which tends to be a little bit different when we talk about racism, inclusion, equity, and so on. So that's kind of where we are going to do this year, and we will continue offering these sessions in person and online. So I hope more people can show up in person so we can get to meet you and so on. Okay, so what can you expect today for our workshop? First of all, hopefully lots of conversation. I don't want to be like, I know I have talked a lot so far, but I will stop talking at some point, and then you will be talking and sharing. Hopefully there'll be some learning, maybe a few tips of new things that you can explore, or maybe things that you knew, but now you say, maybe, it would be nice to practice these things. Perhaps an opportunity for introspection and just kind of taking a look at ourselves and how we are part of the change. Also a sense of community. Kind of like you are not alone, right? There are other people that are going through the same situations that you are doing. And more importantly, today you will not be told what to do. I'm going to give you tips. I know it's easy to be told what to do, but things that work for me may not work for you or for you necessarily. So it is important that you kind of come up with your own solutions. So a few principles to observe. First of all, one of the things that I really like to when I work with people is just to acknowledge the fact that we all have the agency to change things around us. Sometimes we feel powerless. Sometimes we feel my boss is it's very difficult to deal with. The organization and I am is very dysfunctional. We don't have systems. A lot of things that we feel they're out of our reach and we can kind of like change. But we can change things. And one of the things that I really like to use when I work with people is to take that person from their power position and what they can do. Because even if your organization is in a very bad place, you at least have the power to change jobs, right? So there is always the option that you can change things and be an influencer to other people. The other piece is that we can all learn from each other. Every time I do a presentation, I learn from the people I am presenting to, and people learn from one another as well. So, I'd like you to participate. It is critical that you tell us your opinions. I have learned more from doing these presentations than reading any book that is, available there. So I hope that you can participate. The other piece is that we hope that this can be a safe space to share how you feel. Of course, this presentation is being recorded. Hopefully will be only for, learning purposes. So don't talk about anything else that you don't feel very comfortable with, but also at the same time, I want you to feel that you have the support of everyone here in the room and online as well. A good practice to have is to say yes and. Most people, when they express their opinion, likes to have some acknowledgement. We all need, as human beings, appreciation and approval from other people. So many times when we have conflicting views, and we can see this happening a lot in society, people tend to shut down one another. When in reality, differences of opinions or see life are very natural to human beings. So using an approach in which you acknowledge the other person and what they have presented or say, and adding what your thought is a great way to quickly acknowledge someone else and also have your input without the other person feeling criticized. So, and now I'm gonna open the floor and ask you in the room and in the Zoom call as well, what kind of principles would you like to observe today? Does anybody have anything that they feel is particularly important to them when they are working in a group, they're going through a presentation? Okay, can you tell me a bit more about that? Yes, support.
I guess communication together with that, what somebody needs to grow themselves with a business.
Perfect.
Maybe different traits or
Thank you. Does anybody in Zoom want to add something?
I would say collaborative work.
Thank you. Anything else?
Just following that patience, being patient, right? Because sometimes we feel like in our minds we're going at a certain pace, but not everybody in the room has the same ideas, and sometimes we need to explain a little bit more, be patient, try to be clear in our message. You know, really going back to communication. So.
Thank you, Diane. Anything else?
Just being respectful of everybody.
Thank you. I can't see your name, Lisa. Okay, thank you, Lisa. All right, so here's a few things that we have laid out for our time together, and hopefully we will use them every time we get together. And if we get new people in the group, we can tell them what were the things that we decided we wanted to have within the group. Housekeeping piece, for those that are participating remotely, you can unmute yourselves and just speak up. Here we are trying to manage the audience in the room and the Zoom call and the microphone and the TV. So please just speak up when you feel like you would like to speak, because it's going to be very hard for me to see if you're raising your hand. The second piece is that we are going to have 2 breaks, which I show you already in the agenda. The restrooms for the people that are here are located on the first floor by the fire extinguisher, if you need to use it. Regarding breaks, please feel free to walk out if you need a little break before our official break comes. No hard feelings, it's fine. Make sure that you take care of yourselves. And the PowerPoints and the supporting documents are going to be sent to you via email as soon as we finish the workshop today. And we are sending the PowerPoint later because we are going to have a little bit of input from you guys, and we would like to kind of like add that into the PowerPoints as well. And you are also going to receive a survey in which we are going to ask you for your feedback. I never take anything personally, so any feedback you give me that can improve the presentations, please do that, because we really need to get better every day. And now it is time for me to stop talking and have a few intros. So I'm going to kind of stop the share right now so we can see the people in the group that are sharing our time with us in Zoom. Let me change the view here so we can see everybody at the same time in a gallery. And I'm gonna volunteer the people in the room so they introduce themselves. So let's see. The first thing I wanna know is just your first name. The second thing is what kind of work do you do? Not where do you work and so on. Just tell me, what is it that you do every day at your job? And then what has been your most significant challenge maintaining work boundaries? So Lisa, can I volunteer you?
My name is Lisa Roger. I work for the Norwalk Housing Authority, and I have a team of people. We help our residents, our low-income residents, in housing with their needs for self-sufficiency, helping to direct them to education, employment, health and wellness, and that sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
We're a very small team. There are over 2,000 households in Norwalk Housing Authority. So between the 6 of us, we manage about, I would say, 300 caseloads. Various extremes from, those that are pretty much well on their way to those that need a lot of hand holding. And I'd say my biggest challenge with boundaries is I come in the morning with one plan, thinking this is what I have to do because I've got these dates and deadlines that I have to maintain. And no sooner am I in the door for 5 minutes than everything changes. So how to prioritize while still taking care of other things too.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you for sharing that. It's very common in the nonprofit world to be taken over by the emergencies and the last minute needs. And what happens is when we can take care of the important, then the important things become urgent. And you live in that sense of urgency, which can increase your level of stress greatly, right? Okay, will anybody from, and let me just close this PowerPoint so we can see you. Anybody in the room would like to, let me go to the Zoom screen here. Okay, anybody in the Zoom call would like to introduce themselves? Do I have any volunteers here?
I'll
I can
go.
go.
I'll,
You go.
oh, you go ahead, Jacob.
No, it's okay.
Okay, Sean, you start. And then we'll go with Jake.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sean, and I'm the executive director of the Homefront program. And we organize volunteers to keep people in their homes and make their homes more livable by making repairs to them at no cost to the beneficiaries, all with volunteers. And so we do a lot in Norwalk, but all across the state of Connecticut. And as far as work-life boundaries, I'm probably going to be, nothing too original here with COVID, adjusting to the hybrid of working from home and working in the office has been challenging, and also trying to look out for what's best for our mission and our productivity, while also balancing expectations of we just have a staff of 5 people, but each one of them has different preferences in terms of wanting to be together in the office and wanting the flexibility of working from home. So managing that has been it's sort of a work in progress for me too.
Thank you so much for sharing, Sean. And the mission of your organization is just fantastic. I'm sure people are very thankful for the work you and your team do.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's go with Jacob.
Hi guys, my name is Jake. I'm from Catholic Charities of Fairfield. I work primarily in Danbury, but sometimes in Norwalk. And I'm a CCR case manager, which is Connecticut Collaborative Reentry. So I help clients who have a housing voucher and also multiple incarcerations, a history of homelessness. But the incarcerations is really the main focus of my clients. So I help them with like a reintegration into the community, which, connecting to resources all over the state. Typical case manager stuff. But I would say like the hardest boundary that I've faced as a case manager, and I don't know if this would be considered a boundary, but I think the hardest thing I've found is that I can take my clients like bad days and problems and kind of like turn them into my own. I think I'm a very compassionate like case manager, but I think that comes out of fault where you need to be able to have your own successes and your own bad days, and they don't need to equate with your clients. I think that's something that I still struggle with. So
Thank you for sharing. The helper always struggles with that, and Catholic Charity does so much work for so many people that need it. So thank you for joining us today and taking the time
thanks.
to share and be here. Okay, anybody else from our Zoom would like to share their name, what they do at work, and what's their biggest challenge with boundaries?
Hi, I can go next. My name is Christine Paz. I am also with Catholic Charities. I am a part of the community advocacy program. I help find resources for people, advocate on people's behalf, find funding if there's any out there. I would say my biggest boundary is like starting at a certain time and stopping at a certain time, because that's, if I'm working from home, I work until like 6 or 7. I'm like, oh geez, it's already that time. So it's kind of stopping. I think that's part of it, and then not responding to emails and doing the work, but you know, it takes time, and working from home, it makes it a lot easier.
Thank you, Christine. Okay, so I'm gonna turn back to the room. Let's see if anybody else wants to share their experience.
I can share.
Okay.
My name is Sayed Rodriguez, and I'm the president of the Greater Norwalk Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And, you know, as all of you know, the Chamber of Commerce, you know, main focus is really to help the entrepreneurial and business community in Norwalk. And we try to do that not only by networking, which is like the most famous thing that everybody does, but really by bringing workshops. And the boundaries that I encounter is like, we want to do so much, and we usually don't have the resources that we need to tackle all the goals that we put, not only, I'm going to say in the organization, but really it's on us, right? We us working for a nonprofit, all the goals that we want to reach, we making our own. And sometimes it's really hard to separate that feeling where we don't really accomplish something and we feel it on ourselves, and it brings it down to us. We take it too personally. And I think that's the greatest challenge, but also is the greatest reward, because when something does happen and we have those little goals and accomplishments, we feel great. But yeah, I think just separating work from personal life, that will be the biggest boundary that I think we have.
Yes, thank you, Sayed. And you know, everybody at the chamber is a volunteer, so this is on top of your everyday job, right? All right, anybody else in the room that wants to share?
So my name is Sephora, and I work for Southwest AHAC, which is the Area Health Education Center. I see some of my coworkers are on Zoom. Hi. So I'm a CHW, which is a community health worker, and I'm also the program assistant for a project that we are currently working on called Be the Change Connecticut. And I did work with, I forgot his name, from the Greater Norwalk Chamber of Commerce. We did like a COVID outreach, vaccine outreach last year, and that was pretty good. Boundaries, I would prefer not say, because I might get in trouble, but yeah. So yeah, I'm really, I just want to say I'm very happy to be here and excited about this, all the courses. I think it's just such a great opportunity and an outlet for us, because we don't really have that working for a nonprofit. It's almost, we are like the forgotten stepchildren. So thank you.
I know a lot of people can identify with that, so thank you for mentioning that, because my whole life in nonprofit I have felt that way.
Yeah.
All right, does anybody else in Zoom want to share?
I can go. Hi, everyone. My name is Adriana. I work for the nonprofit Hartford Parent University, which advocates for parents' rights for their children in schools, in public schools in Hartford. But I mostly work with Katora and Tiana, who's also on this call for the Be the Change Connecticut project as a community health worker for the Hartford region. So we really educate people on trauma, adverse childhood experiences, and the health outcomes of that. I would say, and I'm sure they can relate to what I'm saying, our one of my, I guess, hardest things to do is to say no, just because it's a very, small project with not a lot of people. We feel like we want to take on everything for ourselves to, improve it because we care about the cause so much. But it can be tiring at times and very stressful. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. So thank you.
Thank you, Adriana. There is another big thing there, right? It's hard to say no when you want to help so many, and always the need is greater than the resources we have available. Anybody else in the Zoom call? Patricia looks like she could be sharing.
Yeah, sure. Hi, my name is Patricia, but I go by Patty, and I work with Catholic Charities. I work with Christine, Gisela, and Jacob. So I work in the SNAP program, SNAP Outreach and Engagement. So I help people apply for the SNAP program. I advocate for them, connect with DSS, and I also help out in the CAP program, which is Christine's program. And I also work in the immigration program, so helping do applications and following up with clients. And I think the biggest struggle for me is managing everything at once. I think that I take on a lot, but because I think I can do it, and then I get a little bit overwhelmed, but I'm working on it.
Awesome. That's always the first step, Patty. We, multitasking, and we were going to be talking about that. It's not as good as it seems to be. Yeah.
Mhm.
So we have, I think, Tona. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Are you there and available to introduce yourself? Tonia Sotomayor. Hi, how are you? You're in mute.
Oh,
You're in mute.
hi. How are you guys?
Good, how are you?
Good, I'm doing well, thank you. My name is pronounced Tiana.
Tiana.
Yes.
Perfect.
And I'm also a community health worker for Southwestern AHAC. And I am also on the Be the Change project, which Katora and Adriana spoke a little bit about. So I guess the question was about boundaries.
Yes. What has been the challenge in maintaining your boundaries?
Yeah, I think kind of like doing work-life balance, like trying to balance work and your personal life is a big thing. So yeah, that's my feedback.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right, so I think I have Gisela left. She hasn't shared yet.
Hi, my name is Gisela Silva, and I'm working Catholic Charities with Patricia, Christine, and Jack. Then we try to work collaboratively, but not sometimes we have clients. I'm case manager, and I work in a kind of getting the clients in a self-sufficiency level. So my struggle is, well, I try to connect them with our team. Some of them, they need mental health, in order to them to achieve or get in their boundaries. So my struggle is I want them to succeed, right? So I'm kind of I'm trying to work with them, but sometimes, it's not easy to get them at the place that they need to be. So like a coaching, sometimes I feel like I'm coaching, like coaching for them, but it's not just given what their basic needs, but it just let them understand they can thrive. It's not easy because some of them, they have immigration situations. So it's knowing others to be able to collaboratively help them and relate to others, like build community, I would say.
Thank you, Giselle. I guess it's hard because sometimes people want you to do things for them, right?
Yes.
You are trying to make them independent and empower them, and managing that thing of doing for them instead of teaching them how to do can be very challenging.
Yeah, and frustrating. So that is kind of have to put a boundary in between my level of frustration, what I can do, and what else, put it aside and accept what they are is part of accepting, I think.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. I think I have everybody online covered. The only person that I have left there is Katie O'Leary, who is from the city of Stanford. And I don't know if she's going to turn her camera on, but I want to just acknowledge all the help we have received from Katie in putting together these workshops. You probably did receive the emails from her letting you know the Zoom link and so on. So she has been the person that has been behind the scenes, kind of like making sure that all of this takes place. And in the room, I only have Lucky left. So would you like, here she is.
Katie, nice to meet you all in person, and those of you online, thank you for coming, but yep, I'm just listening in.
Okay,
Perfect.
awesome. Thank you for joining us. Okay, Lucky.
I guess I'm an entrepreneur. I do a lot of coaching, consulting, in a few different fields, mostly around sales. So a lot of real estate, web solutions, and a little bit of financial here and there. Challenges. I've heard of a few people say the same thing. I guess to me, it's mostly the time management. Where do you spend most of your time? The consistency of it. And then the next thing I think is for myself is finding the right people that really want to help. Because we can't help. We can only help the ones that want it. And sometimes I'm very giving too, and I want to help people that just don't do enough to move forward.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. A lot of commonalities in the challenges we face. And, that's why we have this community kind of conversation, because it helps us realize that we are not the only ones facing these challenges. And somehow we feel like, oh, okay, I have the support of others because other people understand how I feel as well. So I think it is time for a little break. We are going to take 5 minutes. So right now is 1:16. We'll be back at 1:21. So if you need to use the restroom, grab something to eat. We have some water here in the room. And I'll see you all in 5 minutes. Take a little break. All right. Back here. Okay. So we have almost everybody here. We're gonna get it started again. Let's see, I have a message in the chat. And, oh, that was an old message. All right, so let's get it started. And let's talk about how has the world changed in the last 3 years. So it's been 3 years since COVID hit us in a way and changed our lives in a way that we didn't expect it was going to happen. So first of all, let's talk about remote work versus on-site work. So I want to bring my people back from in the screen at Zoom, because I want to ask you first, how many of you work on-site in your offices? You do? How about you remote? Okay. How about over there at the Zoom? Sean?
I do a hybrid of on-site and home.
Okay. Do we have anybody that goes to the office in this group?
I do.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Most of the time, do you have a hybrid kind of situation, or?
No, I'm in the office a
Go
week.
to the office. Uh-huh. All right. So the next question is kind of combined, because I wanted to know who works mostly remote and who has kind of a hybrid kind of arrangement. They do some work from home and some work from the office.
Yeah, I mostly work from home unless there's an event or outreach or something that we have to do in person.
All right. Mostly from home. What about Gisela, Jacob? Where do you guys work the most?
I can jump in. It's Christine. I primarily work in the office in Norwalk, but 1 day a week I work from home.
All right.
I'm like a 40-minute commute, so.
Thank you, Christine. All right, so I got like a few people that were able to answer. Tiona said that she works hybrid. And let's see. And we'll hear back from Jacob and Gisela, I guess, at some point. Just if you guys are hearing me, just unmute yourselves and let us know what's how do you work. So let me go back to this PowerPoint here. Make sure you see it, because we are going to be writing a few things in. Okay. People in Zoom, can you see the whole screen or do you see the little PowerPoint slides on the left? Can somebody tell me, please?
I see both.
You see both?
Yeah.
Okay.
The slides on the left and
We're going to change that. But since I have to type now anyway, it would be good for me to have that view. All right. So let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of working remote. And let's talk about the advantages and the disadvantages of working on site. So anything will suit if you want to share any of your thoughts that you have at this moment.
Remote is a roll out of bed.
You can
Roll out of bed.
Oh, I see.
In your pajamas.
So basically you can kind of like pretend you're dressed, but work with your pajamas on.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So there is no need to wake up so early, right? Let me see. Okay, what else? What other advantages are there or disadvantages to working remote?
You can, well, for advantages for remote, you can really do things on your own time. It doesn't have to be specifically from 9 to 5.
Okay.
Well, I mean, like it's supposed to be, but I don't know.
Yeah, many people have kind of been able to combine their lives, right? The childcare was a big deal during COVID. So being able as a parent to care for your child while you are working was a great advantage. Although most people went almost crazy at that time, right? Trying to manage everything at the same time. You didn't have to figure out, you know, childcare arrangements if you were home. What other advantages of working remote?
Save on gas.
Uh-huh. It's important, saving on gas, right? And time. On gas and commute time. Which I don't know why so many people are working remote. Traffic is so bad. It continues to be awful. So I don't know what's happening. All right. Yeah, it's all those people that moved from New York to Connecticut, right? Okay, what else? What other advantages to working remote?
You're more productive. In case that you have meetings, you can go from one meeting to another in just by clicking one button.
Okay.
So you can tackle more meetings.
Also, you can take time to concentrate on what you have to do, right? If you can maintain your boundaries, but you can kind of like try to block times in which you are purely getting that job that you need to get done.
Yeah, less distractions.
Less
like
distractions.
Co-workers and phone console ringing.
Okay, let's talk about the disadvantages of working remote.
Automation.
Okay, tell me about that.
Very hard to be focused and lock yourself in the room. always get interruption.
Uh-huh. It is hard to keep the motivation going, right? Keep motivation and structure. What else?
There's no boundaries between life and work.
Uh-huh.
You know, you're doing both of them in the same place.
Mm-hmm.
So you cannot really like switch up, you know, the work mindset.
Uh-huh.
And you eat more.
True. You're closer to the refrigerator, right? What else?
Isolation and lack of connectiveness, I'd say.
Very
That's
unhealthy,
great,
very
yeah.
unhealthy.
Going back to work in the office is hard because now you don't know how to talk to people, what to say, right? Before you used to talk about everything, like what TV show, the news, but now when you're going back, you're like, what can I say to this, you know, coworker?
Right.
So you kind of like miss me. It's like getting to know the person, but now it's like you don't know them. It's like they're going back to the office, complete stranger. I don't know how to say that.
Uh-huh. Yes, absolutely.
The mindset has changed.
Mindset has changed. People are
Scared.
uh-huh. Thank you. I want to throw this one out. Although we may be more productive, I feel like things take longer to get done because we have to email, meet instead of stopping by my coworker's desk and resolving something in 5 minutes. Right? I would love to hear from the audience in the in Zoom and see what if they have any kind of things that they would like to add.
I was just gonna say, you know, it's interesting, all the above, but the whole the topic of distractions, I find you know, I'm like right on the fence of being an introvert and an extrovert. So I really like how when I'm home, I can just focus on a project without any distractions, but I do have household distractions. So there's a difference of what the distractions are. Like there's a lot that happens when we're in person in the office that is also just kind of, you know, chit chat and you don't want to be rude. So I think the distractions are very much a function of, you know, our life circumstances, like how well our home is set up to be a home office and that sort of thing. It kind of cuts as both an advantage and a disadvantage, I guess, for me.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And, you know, family members were very careful in the beginning of the pandemic of not intruding on people's things that they have going on. But I think they have gotten so used to our virtual communication that they walk behind our screens in pajamas and like ask you for things while you are in a meeting today, right? I don't know if anybody can relate to that, but it happens to me a lot. Anybody else would like to share?
I guess you could say like trying to work and still do your household chores at the same time. Can be because like you try to cook while you're in a meeting or something, so sometimes that could become kind of overwhelming.
Right. Try to do the things that you have to do in your life.
Yeah.
While work is happening all over the place.
Yeah.
Right.
Or what it could also be a benefit too because you're multitasking, so it's like on the cusp.
We're gonna talk about multitasking. All right.
For me, hybrid will work.
Hybrid is a good you know, deal.
Yeah.
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 You can have a little combination of both, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the advantages of working on site and disadvantages. You will think that they are like similar, they mirror each other, but there may be a few things that we are not thinking about that may be an advantage or a disadvantage of working on site. Who wants to talk about working on site and what works for you?
I guess you can say like the stuff that you need would be at the facility, like printers, supplies.
Resources are there, right?
I think also for working on site, at least for me, I feel like it pushes me to be more productive because I want to get out by a certain time. Whereas at home, it can be hard, like people said before, because of the distractions that you have. And, you know, depending on your workspace, it just feels like home versus a place where you can, you know, do your work. So yeah, I think when I have to do something in person, I just feel more productive overall.
Great. What else is an advantage of working on location?
You get to talk to other coworkers and learn from them. You know that I'm gonna be honest, especially the new kids that are coming out of school and just working remotely. I don't know how they're gonna learn the trade if they don't see other people, what they do, what they don't do. It's like that knowledge that passes from, you know, vertical I think he's been lost. So I guess talking to people, learning from other coworkers.
Yeah. What else?
In general, I think it's easier to establish home work boundaries. Go home, get home, work, get at work.
Right.
And then the other one is just being able to connect with people when you need them versus, oh, well, I call them on the phone and they don't answer, or waiting for a response from an email, or versus just kind of going next door and saying, hey, what do you think of this idea or project?
Yeah. Yes, the immediacy of getting feedback and kind of like resolving things quickly can be, you know, really useful. People. Disadvantages of working on site. Now that we know what working remote looks like.
You have to go there.
Go there, commute, right? Commute, and I'm gonna say it again, traffic.
Interruptions. Got a minute?
Yes, the same thing that allows us to get things done quickly also causes interruption. So it's kind of everything we do has like two sides to it, right? We can get answers quickly, but then people are asking for answers from us too when we are trying to concentrate on getting work done. Anything else?
I was just gonna say, I think a lot of this is the small business focus. It's you know, Yvonne, you were saying earlier about how much easier it is to communicate and get things done quickly when you're on site. I find you know, for a small business, it's you don't want to feel like you're too bureaucratic by developing policies, but you also don't want to be too kind of loose either. So, you know, in small, you know, if larger organizations have mandates, you know, we have to all be in the office or we have to all be at home. And I think for small businesses, a lot of people join small businesses because they like the idea of, you know, of it being less regimented. But as kind of a leader of a small business, that can be challenging because there's the whole, you know, balancing the preferences of your colleagues who want to work at home or who want to work on site. You know, and I guess like one of the things, I don't know if others in the room or on Zoom have found this, but I found the use of texting to be pretty frustrating to communicate things. You know, what is your communication mode when you're not on site? Is it email? Is it text? Is it Zoom meetings? And I think that people get very, everyone has a different idea of what those different tools are to be used for. You know, so like when I see a text, it kind of means drop everything. I need to work on this, but that may not be what someone else is using it for. So I guess that's kind of just a global thing I wrestle with as a kind of a small business leader.
Yes, it is hard. And we have to acknowledge that because we have dealt with so many issues that have to do with health as well, people's preferences and the way they feel about work, asking for things have changed, right? We have set somehow boundaries that are regarding our personal well-being that look very different like before, in the sense that if you are sick or you're not feeling well, you do expect your employer not to make you work. So in the past, everybody will go sick to the office, right? And like people will come to the office with the flu and just nothing happened. As we have become more aware of health, we are more careful also, not only as employees, but also as employers to make sure we are containing that. So people that are available for work at the same time may shift a lot as well. And so teams feel sometimes they have to struggle because now a person is sick and it's not working anymore. Like they used to come and do their job anyway, not anymore, right? Because we are more concerned about health issues as well. And there is like kind of like, you don't want to be bureaucratic, telling people, well, when, you know, these are the rules and this is how we're going to do our work. Yet at the same time, because everybody has different preferences of how they want to go about work, you know, it may be hard and challenging to be able to manage your business, put it together and move it along the way that in a way that it is productive. Like Xavier was saying, we have a whole generation of new people that are coming into the workforce that maybe never worked on site. So how do we make that work? And one thing that I want to mention, as we are talking about these different preferences, is the fact that in the nonprofit industry, because we are helping people to get through the challenges they're having at the moment, not everybody has the chance to work remote. Like in the case of Patty, she said she's in the office all the time. And when, you know, some of the staff has to be in the front, really because their work doesn't allow for them to work somewhere else. And then we have other part of the staff, like, you know, communications, giving, development, and managers who can do their work from home are working permanently from home. That causes that the culture of the organization breaks as well, right? We have people who feel like they have to be there all the time, holding up the fort. And we have people that feel like, you know, they will be more productive at work, working from home, getting more done. And therefore, because their job allows them to do more from home, they have a different situation. So we have like this kind of like different levels of advantages to people that not everybody is able to count on when they are on their work. So that's something to keep in mind when we are building cultures of teams. And we're going to be talking about that in the future workshops. Today is mostly about yourself, but you know, ourselves are perceived within the grand scheme of organizations as well. Does anybody else want to add anything to the conversation before we move into the next phase? I'd love to hear your thoughts around what I just said, like kind of like, oh, I have to go to work every day. How come I cannot work from home? And, you know, and vice versa. Many people are working from other countries now, right? So although working when you are kind of vacationing is not ideal, but you know, it's kind of like if you see somebody, you know, being in Europe while you're working over here, it feels a little bit, you know, The unfair, right? Yeah, privileges that not everybody has.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It kind of creates a problem within the organization because some people feel more advantageous than the other ones. And then usually it also goes to the people that are managers. They don't come to the office anymore because I guess they have people that are on the ground and we're just starting, feels like, hey, I'm not getting the same treatment. And yeah, so I don't know, it's tough for the manager. It's tough for the manager and organization just to keep it like that. And sometimes if you say, also look at the community in the industry, somebody is really good at what they do and you tell them they have to be in the office, they start looking for another job. And then you lose that person. So, it's tough. It's tough nowadays to really have that. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just
Yes.
everywhere is tough, right? From the people that are really being the employees and to the employer is like, how do I keep this going? And the employees is like, well, I guess maybe we need to pay them more, right? The people that are coming to the office.
Right.
Maybe, I don't know. Right?
Yeah, a few things can be definitely done regarding policies and, kind of as an employer, put your foot down and say, well, everybody needs to come in 3 times a week, or depending on your hours or your role, this is how we're gonna make it kind of the same for everybody. Yeah. Does anybody at home or from Zoom want to say something? I'd love to see your beautiful faces if you want to turn your cameras on. Hey, hi Gisela. Do you want to add anything, Gisela, to this conversation? You're on mute.
I think we can accommodate, but hybrid, sometimes working from home, it has been working for me. So once a week, sometimes when bad is very bad, and I do my office work at home. It's just having organization, set mine. I think it will work.
Great, thank you for that.
Yeah, because I need to be with my coworkers too. So I think it's important to at least, right, being with everybody.
There is always happy hour we get here. Absolutely. And one of the things that, like, if we have like weather issues, right? We don't have to deal with the commute when there's weather issues and so on. So there are certain
people who don't necessarily have daycare and like, let's say your kid gets sick and you have to go pick them up from school. It's much easier than if you're an on-site, because you could just run, grab them, go home and continue being productive. But if you're on-site, you actually have to take time off from work and get them go home. So then that's the end of your work day. Right. So that does work for especially for single parent moms and dads.
absolutely. You shall see, just bring them home, sit them in front of the TV, and you continue working. Right. All right, so we're gonna move into the next kind of slide, which doesn't have much, so I don't really know whether it's worth it sharing it, but I will put it up and share with the rest of the group at home. And this is about the challenges of the Great Resignation versus the Great Regret, which is what the people are calling it right now. So how many of you changed jobs in the last 3 years? I would love to know. Okay, we have one in the room. How about the people in Zoom? How many of you changed jobs in the last 3 years? Patricia did. Okay. Christine, sound like you
Yes,
said.
I have as well.
Okay. Anybody else that changed in the last 3 years?
I have.
Uh-huh.
I have as well.
Okay. Thank you. Fiona, right? That was Fiona saying that she had changed, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, and how many of you stayed at your job? I did. All right. So I like to hear, first of all, what happened with the people that stayed when they were, they had to stay at their job and people were leaving. Like there's no tomorrow. Gonna take a 1-year vacation and get unemployment and then decide what I'm gonna do with my life again, or change jobs. What happened with the people that stayed?
We at the housing authority didn't really have a lot of turnover.
Okay.
We did switch from being on site to mostly remote, but we did not have a lot of turnover of our staff.
Good. So you were able to continue doing your work in a modified way, but you were able to do it. Does anybody else have a different experience from the Zoom call?
I was just gonna say that similar to the Norwalk neighborhood housing, we didn't have much turnover. Of course, we're a really small program, but one of the things that, as a manager, you kind of felt that was out there as far as people, the Great Resignation, and because nonprofits don't always compensate people as well financially, I guess the expression is people get compensated in other ways, but I think it put pressure on me to be as flexible as I could with my colleagues, because when you can't pay people more with a tight budget, you can offer them flexibility, and it, I think as a manager, it makes, it just sort of rightly or wrongly puts the pressure on you to to really think about what your colleagues want first and foremost. It's just been kind of my experience.
Thank you for sharing that. I would like to share my experiences. Was like during the first year of COVID, a lot of people kept working and did whatever they could to help people, but they got so burnt out that they decided to make changes. And then the people that stayed had to do 2 or 3 people's job at the same time, because finding new people was so challenging, right?
Like the nurses.
Yep. So, a lot of people were burnt out and now they're feeling a little bit more stable, but there was a time in which you couldn't contain the amount of work and you didn't have enough people to get it done and you couldn't hire people. Tiona, do you want to share? I think she went on mute, just by chance. What about Gisela, Patricia, Christine, Jacob? Do you guys have something that you would like to share regarding changing jobs, Great Resignation, Great Regret, they call it these days? Many people that have resigned are not able to find jobs today. So it has been kind of like challenging for them as well.
I never had that experience. I always was working and look, something coming up after.
Okay.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Well, how about the people that changed jobs? How was that experience for them during the last few years?
I guess you could say it was, I'm finally working in a field that I actually went to school for.
Oh.
So for me, it is a benefit, and now I get to work remotely rather than working like 70 hours a week. So it's like a way slower pace type of environment compared to what I had before. So it actually turned out better for me. Financially, no, because it's a nonprofit, but like less stress for sure, and way better work-life balance.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it worked out.
Very good. Awesome. Does anybody else have kind of like a good experience changing jobs during the last 3 years?
Yeah, I can speak to that. I was a case manager for an agency where I had about 110 clients. which was like intensive case management, which is really extremely difficult. But now I'm at a job where, you know, people are constantly checking up on you and making sure what you're doing is, you know, enough and you're not feeling burnt out. And I think that's like a major point, is like that burnout piece, because at my old job, that's exactly what was happening to all the case managers. And, you know, at this time last year, I think there was like 10 of us that had left. So it speaks to that itself.
Wow, thank you. You know, this sharing that we had just now, you know, makes me think that's the fact that perhaps people in organizations are a bit more aware, right, of how much they can stretch people. So therefore, it's a good opportunity and good time for us to set up more boundaries, right? And make sure that we are going to like keep up those boundaries so that we can continue doing our best work. So my last slide that I'm gonna share with you is the biggest misconception between life and work balance. So let me go back to this Zoom for a second and share with you guys. Let's see, share screen. And I'm gonna need someone to tell me if we are on the right slide, if you don't mind, please. Let's see. So you should be seeing the number one misconception about life-work balance is that. Yes, good?
Yeah, you're on the right slide.
Thank you so much. So the biggest misconception is that life is separate from work. Everybody talks about life-work balance like it was two, like it's two different things, right? When in reality, work is part of life, right? So it's a mental switch. It's like, oh, I want to balance my life and then my work. But work is part of what we do every day. And when we think about it as being two separate things, what happens that we start creating feelings of resentment towards work because we don't consider part of the rest of our lives. Because it's this thing that I do separately, but in reality, most of us spend more time doing work than anything else. Right? So how can we create boundaries to align time for rest, relaxation, and play while we understand that work is part of our lives? It's what we do every day, and you know, actually a great motivator. Not, I mean, if we really love what we do get up for a lot more than just a paycheck. We do get up to kind of like go and help other people, right? Especially in the nonprofit, to make a change on somebody else's life that may be at a lot of more disadvantage than we are. So this is where we're gonna move on next, and I'm gonna give you a little break. I don't know how people are feeling at home. I had planned a 10-minute break. I would like to go to 5. How do you guys feel about that? Or you want 10 minutes?
5 is good.
It's
5 is
fine.
fine.
5 is
Yeah.
good.
5's fine.
Okay, so let's go for 5 minutes. It is 1:57, so I'll see you back at 2:04. No, I'm sorry, 2:03. All right. Looks like I have like a lot of things. Look, I have many screens open here. Okay, so hopefully everybody's back. And what happened here? Some quit unexpectedly. Can everybody hear me at home still? Yes, okay.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so, and you can see the image that said, let's talk about burnout and boundaries and good work habits, right? Yeah, okay, awesome. So we're gonna move into a few tips about what you can do about keeping boundaries. But I think that you know, I have a long definition for burnout over here. Usually it's not good to have slides that have so much information, but I really put it in here because I'm gonna send you this so you can look at it later. But basically burnout is kind of like feelings of depression, exhaustion, increase distance from one job, feeling of negativism, and reduce professional efficacy. So in the PowerPoint, you will see that we have a link to this specific report from the World Health Organization that classified this as a syndrome of burnout at work when chronic stress hasn't been managed. So more importantly, I like to speak for a little bit, and I don't know how to get this more. Let's see, this piece. We are seeing something on the screen here that you probably cannot see at home. But the myths and facts about multitasking, because that's something that I really want to address. So let's see if we can get to it, and you can see some of it. But you're gonna hear me anyway. So a myth is that being a multitasker makes you more valuable and effective at work. Many times we do get jobs that request that people have to multitask. And what organizations really mean is like I have like 2 or 3 jobs that I'm gonna put into one person, and that's why I want you to multitask. But in reality, what happens with our brains is that people cannot concentrate in 2 things at the same time. So every time we are multitasking, unless it's something we do automatically, like driving, even, carrying our children or doing grocery shopping, but something that we have to do and concentrate, what happens is when we are multitasking, we are switching our brain from task to task. And in between tasks, there is a lapse of time in which your brain needs to readjust. So we really, although it feels like we get a lot done, we are less productive than we would be if we were concentrating on one thing at a time, because our brain has the need to switch from task to task. And of course, working in that manner creates more burnout. Your brain gets tired more because you are giving it the work of having to switch every time you go back and forth between one thing and another. So multitasking is not as good as people make it to be. And I know that, people tend to speak about multitasking as a really good thing to have in their life. That's a real good talent, but it's not. We imagine that multitasking looks like the person on the top. But what really happens is that multitasking looks like the person here on the drawing on the bottom, right? You think you can do all these things at the same time, to have all these ways of communication, but in reality, it creates chaos. The other thing, and I have an article to back up this one, it says that technology helps us to communicate more effectively. It does if we use it well, but is in reality, email and electronic communication are making people miserable. And I'm going to tell you why in our next piece of the conversation. Also, another myth is that being responsive demonstrates that I'm very productive at work. So if I get an email and I respond to that email right away, I'm the best team player. Wow, right? We are constantly getting distracted from what we are supposed to do. So separating deep work is essential for our productivity and well-being. Separating time to do the work that takes a long time and needs to concentrate your concentration, it makes you more productive than switching and being very responsive to people. We are in a situation in which more people have like self-induced attention deficit, because we are so used to moving from task to task, we can't concentrate on anything for more than 10 minutes. So we are creating this, we are making our brain function this way. So, one of the things I try to tell people is that when you are finding the balance to find, this way of balancing your life, your personal life, and then your work life all together, you have to concentrate into 2 things and build these 2 habits that are essential. The first one is relentlessly pursue internal and external clarity. If you are not clear about what you want and how you're gonna manage your day, it's very difficult that other people understand what you are trying to get to. So before we go out there and talk to people and say, you know, I really need time off, or we need to have our own clarity. And it is important, we'll talk about tips on how you can reach that clarity, to set your boundaries. If you don't know what your boundaries are, nobody's gonna get those boundaries. So you first have to clarify what those boundaries are and how you're gonna make them work for yourself. And then you can start telling people about them. The second piece is that to set self-boundaries, you have to learn to manage internal and external expectations. Managing external expectations is a lot easier than managing internal expectations. And here is one thing that is super important: self-regulation. Self-regulation is the ability to understand and manage your behavior and your reactions to feelings and things that happen around you, right? Self-regulation is not easy. It's something that needs to be practiced a lot, but you can get there. It just requires practice, right? So things that you regulate are strong emotions, frustration, excitement, embarrassment, things that make you upset, or, you know, or how to focus on a task. So that's the piece of regulation that is internal and where we own our own power to make it happen for ourselves. Why is self-regulation so difficult? First of all, because we humans are social creatures. So we are constantly looking for keys in our environment to tell us if we are doing something right or if we are doing something wrong. And those clues and keys can be very difficult to manage when you are working remotely, because you are not seeing what is happening right behind the scenes. So what happens with humans is that our social networks have encoded in our neurons a link to pain pathways, right? So when we feel we are shut down by others, you often feel physical pain. So, for example, if I get an email at 5 p.m. when I have decided to end up my workday, and this is a group email, right? And somebody sends an email, and then my co-workers start answering that email. It is really hard to stay away from being part of that conversation, right? To set a boundary that after 5, I'm not going to answer emails anymore, because within our neurons and pathways, we feel like we are not being part of that group, and we feel isolated, and we feel that if we don't respond, I'm not going to look like a good team player. So that's one of the challenges, right? Because we are social, it's very difficult to feel that not being part of something is something that we can do. And that's why a lot of people have trouble saying no, right? I hear that a lot. I have difficulty saying no. And it's not only about I really want to help, it's also I want to feel accepted by my peers and the people that are around me. And when I say no, I feel like I'm putting that wall, and I don't know if I'm going to be accepted as much if I say no. So this social adaptation has allowed us, okay, to be a successful species in the planet. Not necessarily a good species for the planet, but successful in our own way in which we think we can progress, right? But, you know, much of the way in which we feel that attraction is coupled with, you know, knowing the hunger absence and the pain that it feels, the same instinct works in social norms. And there are like plenty of really good materials out there that you can read about kind of how people socialize and what is important for them when they feel shun away. What is it that feel? That's why our social media has taken such a strong hold of our generation, right? Because we want to feel accepted. And so that's a new whole other thing, but that's what is happening with us. We are being conditioned, right? Because of our social need to be responding and always and constantly trespassing the boundaries that we set for ourselves. So that's the explanation of why this happens, right? And so we're going to talk about a few tips how you can reach personal clarity. The first thing that you can do for yourself is try to wake up every day at the same time and set a morning routine that allows your brain to awaken gently. So rolling out of bed is great.
Well, if you roll out at the same time, that's perfect.
That's your routine, right? Yes. But you know, anything that you can do, like you can even be like drink a cup of coffee without any interruptions and without looking at your phone. It doesn't have to be a big deal. You don't have to meditate or do yoga or whatever it is. Some people exercise in the morning. Some people have like a clear motivation for doing those. But if you can keep it simple, is the best. And if you can start a small way, it's also you know, a good way to start building that kind of like habit in your head. But waking up early and giving your brain a good time, like enough time to relax in the morning without looking at your phone and checking out emails that may have come the night before would be ideal. It's good for you and your brain and your health. Take time in the morning to center, right? Sometimes mornings can be chaotic. And if you are like if you have a lot of dreams that are chaotic like I do, right? I kind of like when I wake up, I need to have 5 minutes to rest from all the dreams I had at night. So taking time to center is important in whichever way you feel is okay. We talk about self-care a lot and we will be talking about self-care, but self-care is important that is realistic for you and that works for you. That's pretty much it. Next thing, set a time in which you will start your work day in advance and try to stay away from doing work before that. That's super important. I think if I say I'm gonna start working, whatever, if you want to start working at 7 because you want an hour to catch up before everybody starts emailing, that's perfectly fine. Just don't start at 6:45, right? Take that time to do whatever you have to take care of in the morning so you are not rushing through the day. And then also make sure you stick to your time that you can start your workday. The same way we transition from work, from the home to the office by commuting in our car and taking 30 minutes to commute or more for some people, you can also do the same thing personally by setting that time in which you will start working. Create a ritual to begin your workday. That's a good tip as well. If you decide you're gonna start your workday by checking emails, do that every day. If you decide you're going to start your workday by cleaning up your to-do list and creating a new one for the day, do that for the day. As long as you have a ritual for beginning your workday that works for you, you will be able to transition into work in a way that is much more productive and healthy for you. So those are things around personal clarity for you. How do you set up clarity for other people, right? So because that's the hard part of setting boundaries. And I'm going to tell you something. In my personal experience, people are okay with boundaries as long as they know what the boundaries are, right? So, for example, things that you can do. Make sure you are clear and consistent about the times that you are available for work. For this, you can use technology. For example, automatic replies. If you are out, let's say some people work 4 days during the week, they work longer hours, and you're out, or you go on vacation, right? Your automatic replies are super important because it will tell the other person that you are not available and what they can do if they can't find you. It's very unusual that someone has an emergency that needs to kind of like needs you right away. We feel like it's important, like it can't wait 2 minutes, but it really can. And having automatic replies, it's important. Also, use your email signature to tell people, right, when you are available for work and when you are not available. These are my office hours, right? So people, even if they don't read them, you are showing consistency between what you're saying on your automatic replies and your email signature as well. Set up that in your voicemail at the office and on your cell phone if you have a cell phone from work as well. When you have your answering message, just say, I'm in the office this day, and this day, and my work hours are these days. I will get back to you when I get back to the office. That's very important as well with clients that we serve, volunteers that we work with. One of the things that happen on those interactions, right, is that people will call you when they remember they have to call you. It's not like, oh, it's my coworker and, it's 5 p.m. I shouldn't be contacting them because they're done with work. No, I'm a volunteer and I need to find out something and I'm going to call you when I think about it because this is my free time, it's not what my work time. Then also with clients, right? Their emergencies happen for them immediately and they need to be resolved. And they are having trouble themselves in finding that self-regulation. But that doesn't mean that has to take over your life. So when you have messages and all of them match, right, in which you are telling people this is when I'm available, then you will be able to give clarity to other people. Hi, welcome. Hi. Have a seat. Okay. So next, teams. I think Sean talked about this, right? And text and how people are using different ways of communication and how they are kind of like serving them, like and the people that you are serving as well. So if you clarify with your team how you can be contacted and when, it will save you a lot of trouble. So here is an example. For example, guidelines like if for feedback required within 2 business days, use an email, right? I have 50 emails to catch up with, so I may not get to your email in 5 minutes. I may answer to you tomorrow. So if you clarify with your team, kind of like, if you need something from me that can be answered within the next 2 days, please send me an email. Now, if you need feedback from me during the workday, you can use Teams chat, Google chat, whatever system that you use that people can send you a message and you can respond to later. Let's say you need someone to answer you within 2 hours. Okay, well, send me a message through WhatsApp or whatever communication system you may use in your office, right? And if you need response right away for something that you need that is an emergency, give me a call.
What's that?
Mm-hmm.
Call anybody anymore? It's younger generation.
That's a great point. Yeah. That's a great point. And you know what?
Picks up the phone.
And so much can be resolved so quickly with a phone call.
Yes. People that are successful make a lot of calls. They're not using text. They communicate, talking to the phone. If in real estate, you can't do a deal with texting. You gotta communicate, you gotta talk. But the younger generation, they're in the same room and they're texting. So that's a big challenge.
It is a big challenge. And sometimes we kind of like don't recognize the number, so we don't answer the phone too.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Everybody tells me that. So how do you know it's not business?
I try to answer all my phone calls, even if it's like a salesperson and just hang up quickly. Yeah, because I don't know who's calling me all the time. I don't have everybody's number. But these guidelines are just an example. You can come up with any guidelines that you desire, as long as you can communicate it to your team and everybody is on the same page, you will be able to kind of like have a common way to communicate depending on the urgency that the communication is needed. So like I said here, the channels you use is totally up to you and your team. But you need to express them and inform people that you're working with about them. I got at the point in which I almost do not receive emails the days I'm not in the office, because I have been practicing this for a very long time and being very consistent about it. And every email system now has a way to schedule an email. So I can be writing emails on my free time because I have a lot to catch up. but people don't need to get them right away, right? And that will create the less communication you produce, the less communication you are going to get back. Mm-hmm. Do we have any comments in Zoom? Does anybody would like to add something that works for them or not? Everybody's very quiet and
I can tell you, so funny that you're talking about this, because today I just sent something and I had to call my coworker and ask her, was I being rude? Because I was dealing with a family, and for years I've known the child. So personally, the mother had my personal number for emergency reasons. I haven't changed my number over 14 years, so she still has it. So on weekends, 7 o'clock in the morning, she feels the need to just call me. Of course, I don't answer it. But then I want now her to know that she can't do this, but I didn't want to be harsh about it. So I just said to her, hello, good morning. I know you might be at work at this time. This is my work phone, okay? I answer it 9 to 5. So if you need to reach me, you can call me, and I give her the work phone number. Thank you.
that's awesome.
And she's been, no, she did, because she's been talking to me. Now I can't stop her from calling it, but it's better. And I said, was I being rude? Because she, you know, I don't want them to be personalized and like, oh, she doesn't want to take my calls.
Right.
But I needed her to know that you can't feel free to call me on a Saturday at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm not at work. It's a work-related situation. You know?
Exactly. I think you did great. Yes.
Right to the point.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely, in a very polite way. Somebody was going to say something at home. I don't want to miss that comment.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I really like the point about being more productive by speaking in person. I think the other thing is maybe that teams need to kind of set, just like you did at the beginning of this presentation, some guidelines, because if there's, let's just sort of what's the saying, kind of give people the benefit of the doubt, assume goodness, because if there's ever a risk that something you need to communicate could be taken the wrong way, I think it's something you do want to be doing by, not by text or email, but by phone. And I do think that people, text forces people to be more terse and brief than they might be in person, so they can come across the wrong way. But I think it's kind of let's just assume goodness and give me feedback if I come across differently than you would like. But also let's try to hold ourselves to the standard that if we have something delicate to communicate, then maybe that is the, in person or by phone is probably preferable to text and email.
Yes, absolutely. I always tell people, if you need to reach me quickly, text me. But that's my preference. Doesn't have to be everybody's preference, and as long as you can communicate it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have a few other tips that I want to share with you. I know we're running short of time. One of them is to separate and do focus work, put it in your calendar and stick to it. I know it's not easy to stick to it, but there are a few tools out there that I'm going to share with you that you can kind of use to start practicing. Separating time to concentrate and do deep work is really important. And you can even have an auto reply saying, right now I'm doing some important work, I'll get back to you. But the thing is that it's our social connection, right? We feel, people may send us an email, but it's us the ones that feel that it's urgent, that we need to get back to them, right? It's not necessarily their intention, unless they say it's urgent, but, right? Next one is decide also in advance what time you are going to end work and have also an end of the work routine. So I think one of the people at home was saying that they have a hard time finishing work, that is 7 o'clock and they are still finishing. So when you decide what time you're gonna finish work, set up an alarm and say, at this time, I'm gonna stop working. And these are the things that I'm going to do to close my workday. It could be maybe update your to-do list, to put your auto reply message, something that you do that helps you move to that next stage in which you are going to move into the rest and relaxation time that you need. If you want to take it up a notch, set a time in your calendar during the week to ensure that you have enough rest time and play time allocated to it. So here is an example. So this is a calendar that I have. I haven't updated lately, but all the yellow areas are set times for relaxation, family, and making dinner and going to the grocery store. Right? So I have my work hours, but then certain times are dedicated and are separated for having time to relax. If you want to learn about that, there's a guy called Michael Hyatt. He writes a lot about how to separate your time and create routines that are productive for you. And he has online something called My Ideal Week. And you can download the template and use it as you need it. Decide what time, that one, I said that already. So the biggest challenge to maintain boundaries, unfortunately, I have to tell you, is you. Self-regulation plays a very important role here. You can create to-do lists that can help you, which are micro and macro. I'm gonna send you an article I wrote a while ago that talks about that. So it will give you tips about what to do. Very important, if you are a manager, show by example. Like I said before, there's a lot of tools to decide when an email is gonna leave your inbox. If you are a manager, please don't be sending your staff emails on the weekend. Unless it is a place where they work on the weekends. Right? Because your staff is gonna feel that your expectation is, right, that you respond. That's good, you have that boundary there, right? But not everybody does, right? Not everybody has that boundary. And you know, if you are a manager, make sure that you act in a way in which your staff doesn't feel like they have to be responding after hours. I mean, if you're a manager and you decide you're gonna work at 3 o'clock in the morning, I mean, God help you. Right? Okay, you have issues, but don't send it to me at 3 o'clock in the morning, right? Separate time to respond emails and resist the urge of answering every single one of them. Use the like button. There are other things to acknowledge that you got it, but that craziness of reply all needs to stop because not everybody needs to see that you have acknowledged and you're giving hoorays, right?
That's why that little heart appears when you text people.
Yes, yeah, they have created a few ways.
Okay.
And I know Outlook also has the things that you can put a like, a smiley face, and things like that. So that people know that you have read and acknowledged. But unless those people are requiring a response, don't engage into it. The only thing that it does is create more traffic for everybody else. And allow a 15 to 30-minute buffer between meetings. Who is tired of Zoom? I am. I mean, people set up meetings from, as soon as I finish a meeting, I have another meeting and I have to get out to get into the other meeting. And there is no time for me to think, to take notes, or even to do the follow-up. So make sure that every time you have a meeting, there is a way to set up those so that you get a buffer of time in between meetings. Other things I have heard from other people while I do this kind of presentations: silent alerts from your phone, delete applications that take your attention, do not look at emails before working out. This is for people that work out in the morning. Important to decide what are the 3 top things that you're gonna do in a day. I know your to-do list has pages and pages, but it's important to decide what you're gonna do. Use codes on emails to address the importance of the email. If you need response, say, please respond right there on the subject. And set up that with your team. Talk about it, and this is how we're gonna operate. Unsubscribe from lists and emails that you don't want to get. Rest time is very important, and burnout does not come from doing too much, but from trying to give away what you don't have. So those are the tips that I have for you today. I will be sending this presentation to you so you have them handy. If anybody has an extra minute, I would love to hear comments, thoughts. If you have follow-up questions, there's my contact information, which is going to come with the email as well. You can call me, text me, email me, and I'll respond to you. I'll respond to you when I'm available. Anybody wants to say something at home in our with the parting thoughts and so on? Very quiet.
A lot of things to think about it. I did some notes about some things that I have to change. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing that. And of course, if you have any other ideas, I would love to hear them. Like send me like a quick note and let me know. Oh, why don't you add this piece to your presentation? You're gonna get a survey too. So in the survey, you can also send your feedback as well. Anything else from the group at home that they would like to kind of share?
No, I think I just want to thank you for incorporating us from home, so thoughtfully. I know it's not easy to balance it. You guys all did a great job. For me as a manager, I was just thinking about how I have kind of the reverse problem which is a good problem to have, where my colleagues, they have so much passion for what we do that they're contacting me around, at off hours. And that's something I wrestle with to encourage, but, maybe that's a good problem to have. And I guess just when you get to the conflict management workshop down the road, something that came to mind with some of the comments of the group here is conflict management around politics, because I think a lot of the pandemic has made it almost impossible to avoid political conversations at work. And I think a lot of that plays into how people feel around, wearing masks at work or being hybrid, feeling comfortable being in person. And I think as a manager, as anyone who works with people, it's always helpful to have tools to kind of navigate that.
Thank you. I'll make sure we do something about it at that presentation. I see that a couple of people had to leave our call. They probably had to go to another meeting, right? Hopefully they're taking time to relax and just taking a break in between things. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Let me know if you have any input. Please answer that survey. We'd love to hear back from you on what can we do better the next time we meet.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Keep up the great work, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.